Welcome to The Downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. I am annoyed at my co-host, Russell Daniels.
Why? For what?
For what? To keep it as vague as possible, you had a life decision to make last week. You called me 3 separate times as a sounding board and a piece of advice for that life decision. And you made the decision.
I did.
And you didn't tell me for, 4 days now?
Wait.
What is wrong with you?
Well, okay. There's things. First of all, I felt like the last time we got off the phone, you could tell where I was going or how I was really feeling.
Okay.
You felt, and I was, I talked it through to you. And then I also, full disclosure, you are dating my manager. So I thought like you would get the word through her. And, also, okay. So
Did
also,
that work like the reverse, like on your birthday? Should I say,
here's what
Tova
happened.
wished
Here's
him
what
a happy
happened
birthday?
too. Without getting into too many details, I confirmed with her my decision on that thing.
Okay.
And then she was like, great, I'm seeing so-and-so in a few hours, blah, blah, blah. And then I didn't hear for like a day. So in my mind, I started spiraling, being like, maybe they changed their minds. And anyways, they didn't. And it's all great. But I then when it was confirmed.
It could be public now by the time this comes out.
Yeah, well, I have a new agent, so it's good.
And it's Gersh.
It's Gersh.
Which our guest is with.
Oh, cool.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the fuzziest conversation
I know,
up until
sorry,
that
I don't
point.
know-
It
I
was
don't know why I was being vague.
You
It's
didn't tell me about something that we sort of spoke
I was
about.
deciding on what I wanted.
Russell's one of these friends where he'll have you'll be a part of his life for like a chunk, and then you'll check out for the conclusion of that.
That's very
piece.
seductive.
You bring people in, and then you completely
Man
forget
of
about
mystery.
them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I'm excited.
Well, we're here with our guest.
Yeah.
I had the honor of sharing a show New Year's Eve. Not this last one.
No.
The one before.
The one that, whichever variant took out that entire weekend.
Yes.
When we were
at Philly
right.
Punchline. I
yes.
tried to not have a showcase show this year for New Year's, and somehow I still like it changed from a headliner to a showcase show.
Okay.
And I said, son of a bitch.
I love showcase shows.
I hate showcase shows.
Oh,
what are you talking about? Don't you have things you want to do? We're both material men.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
We have a lot of things we want to try and
No, but showcase. What is the difference
Oh,
between?
it's like 3 or 4 comics doing a bigger chunk.
Oh,
so it's
okay,
doing 20
okay.
minutes
Instead of-
each.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? Well, this is what I like about it is that I don't actually get to like. I feel like I don't spend time with comedians in New York City.
You're right.
You're always just like hopping, and even if you're, it doesn't feel the same when you're out of town and you're spending time together. All of a sudden, it's like camp, and I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did one of our co-showcase people went on a date with like a drug dealer.
Well,
had a wild time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much we can reveal, but like I by accident followed up with her, and it turned out that guy was like a pure like con artist.
Oh,
really?
so was he not a drug dealer? He was just
No. Well, okay. So she thought he was black, but he wasn't black. He was like a Puerto Rican or something.
Oh, okay.
But he
said it's a picture and it's Russell, and I'm like, that's not a
like she should have.
But he portrayed himself as such for a while. That was the yeah.
How'd you find out? I would try to make a joke, but I'm not going there.
Yeah, I forget, but it was like just like things that slowly revealed themselves to her, and then finally she was just like straight up asked, and then he kind of like weaseled him. It was I'm gonna botch the story, so you're gonna have to ask her directly.
Yeah. I want to have her on.
Yes.
Well, before we kick off this theme music, and I have something to talk about. Russell sounds like he had a trip getting here. Something about your hands being dirty, no?
Yeah, it's just humanity.
Okay.
Humanity. Right in front of your apartment.
What happened?
We lead into the thing.
Just you might as well.
So I was just crossing the street to get here, and I had headphones in, so I can't hear, but I can see a man wailing in the middle of the road. No pants, poop.
No pants, no underwear.
No, he has
noise canceling
pants,
or not noise canceling?
My headphones are noise canceling,
Yeah.
so I can't hear. They are noise canceling, so I can't hear him, but I can see he's screaming. And there's pants, but the crotch is ripped, so it's exposed, and it's kind of like they're down.
Sure.
So there's a lot of poop like around, and he's fallen. He has a walker that's also tipped over. He's screaming.
Screaming like just
In pain.
In
Like
pain.
he fell.
He's in pain.
His rocker fell over. He's homeless, blah, blah. So, what I love about New York, everyone rushes to there, but everyone's kind of feeling out how are we going to because you're trying to help, but also avoid poop. But everyone helps. We help him up to his feet, to his walker. But then it's like, well, that's not enough. Like we can't just but no one else knows what to do. We helped him up. We got him to his walker. We picked the walker up. But then you're just like,
then you have to run for office and change the entire system.
And I'm like, I gotta go to a podcast. You know, nothing feels good in that moment to be like to resolve it. You know, so you're just left unresolved, making sure he's not in the middle of the road and he's walking now.
Yes.
But he's crying. It's a terribly upsetting way to
Were you the first person to dip out like a jerk? Like
no, I was in the middle. There was a woman that was trying to talk to him, and I was.
I have a podcast, me too, and none of you are lying, to be fair.
No, there was a woman that was still talking to him, and I kept looking like, should I? But I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know where to take him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he was on his feet, he was walking, but it's just very upsetting. Anyways.
And if you brought him here, I'd be like, let's get him on the pod. Let's talk to.
I mean, the stairs though, they would never have been able to come up the stairs.
Sure.
You know? Like he was older, and it's just was.
Well, that must be weighing
humanity.
on you must really be struggling to get through this.
That's the only reason he's not on the podcast.
That's the only reason.
It's the only reason I'm here.
The stairs.
He isn't.
Yeah.
Well, this is The Downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
So, Lingon, before we talk about you, first of all, I'm glad you're here. I view you just from that time that we spent together.
Yeah.
When you disagree with someone or you have a thought on something,
yeah,
you don't hide it. You're not one to be like, yeah. I guess
do you have
you're
an
right.
example you can say without
Like the opposite of you?
Okay, yeah, no, I get that, but I'm saying, like, do you have a real life example of someone saying something? Or?
But I remember, I can't remember the exact things we were talking about.
Well, I think I remember. I think, and I don't think this will be saying anything that she wouldn't be okay with. But when we were hanging out, so the showcase had me, Ray Sani, you, and then Tova was there as well. Ray said something about how if somebody says anything like that's, I think it's like, maybe it wasn't the N-word, but it was like, oh, like if there's anything that's like maybe pro-Trump or something like that, she as a black person, she felt like that was just like intolerable or something like that. And I was of the mind that, well, in and of itself, that isn't like a deal breaker, but it's a hard conversation to have when somebody is like, well, it's the equivalent of saying the N-word or something, and she herself is black, and then I'm not somebody who can really speak on that, but I still felt like my point was valid, so we like continued that conversation in a way that I feel like you and Tova were like, we'll back out.
I just agreed with whoever was speaking at the moment. I said, that's a great point. That's another great point. We're all making great points here. So you might not have a strong opinion on this, and Russell, don't devil's advocate me, just a devil's advocate me.
No, I won't.
This one I feel really passionate about.
Okay.
I've talked about it once a long time ago on the podcast. Taking off your shirt as a man, I don't know the rules with women, but if you're outside and you take off your shirt, you're allowed to do that. That's legal.
As a man.
As a man.
Okay.
I don't know the rules right now. Someone told me the other day, said women can do it too. Now,
I think in New York you could do.
I think they freed them.
They freed them.
So
her and
I
Britney
went
at the same time.
Yes. So I went to Soul Cycle. It's a spin class, very popular spin chain. They just got on ClassPass.
I already disagree with you.
And it's dark. You're sweating. Majority female. And I'm in class, and about 5 minutes in, I go, you know what? I'm going to take off my shirt. Now, I do this in many places in New York. I do a lot of like CrossFit-y, HIIT, high-intensity interval training type stuff. You take off your shirt. You don't do it at Crunch or Blink. I think part of that is, you have this equipment that everyone's sharing. You get too much sweat on it. But I take off my shirt. There's no signs indicating you can't take off your shirt.
What is the exercise you're doing?
We're just on a bike.
On a bicycle.
Okay.
Just moving.
Okay.
And it's dark and like lights and just loud. And I take it off. It's off for about 25 minutes in this 45-minute class. And suddenly the teacher is like, all right, guys, let's keep your nips or your nipples covered. And I'm the only one with my shirt off.
Yeah.
And I very begrudgingly, though no one can witness this because the music is blaring, put it on over my now dripping with hot sweat body. It feels horrible.
Yeah.
I felt shamed.
Yes.
I was I have my body things.
I actually think it's worse that she didn't just call you out. I think it's worse that she just said
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm livid. I almost leave. I almost leave because there's only a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
And I got enough of my workout. Tova's kind of at the angle, and I leave, and I'm very upset. Tova points out, not that I needed it, that I guess the teacher at some point had motioned to me to put my shirt back on, which I didn't see. And she said the teacher might have thought your head was nodding. And I said, you mean because we were biking.
Right.
And it was not only that, we were doing like choreo per her half of this. So if she thought I was nodding, she must have been curious why the whole class was nodding along too.
Yeah.
They all wanted you to put.
Yeah.
So I was very upset. I feel that. Let me just read the letter I wrote them.
Oh my
Oh
goodness!
my
I
God.
didn't realize
I can't
that this is where
imagine
this
writing a letter,
goes.
but-
And now
I
was.
How often are you writing letters?
Not very often.
Okay.
It
very often.
does feel like the way he said it.
Yeah.
That this is like
This is something you do.
Not
3
very
a
often.
week. 3 a week.
So, yeah, because I was just.
This is
I
an
was,
email, right?
This is an email.
Okay, because a letter.
This is an
Postmarked
email.
letter.
And, there was a degree, Tova and I discussing, like, how much anger do you display in public? I'm a guy where that's what I just yell at the sky.
Okay, people at home can't see this. Multiple paragraphs.
Well, they had a response that was
okay.
not satisfactory, or else I wouldn't be talking about it.
Okay.
So I said, okay, now remember, I'm heated.
Yeah, no, I know.
Hello. There are absolutely no signs in your studio clearly indicating the policy on removing one's tank top or shirt during class. Instead, your instructor made an announcement for us to cover our quote-unquote nips or nipples. Frankly, I don't know what she said because I was so body shamed in front of an entire class with their apparently approved appendages out. To not come over and share the policy with some kind of courtesy, which could have easily been done while blasting music from artists who routinely bear their quote-unquote nips, is pathetic behavior from a chain of your size that has clearly done nothing to figure out what I'm sure is not a wildly uncommon error, given the number of classes in New York City that don't seem to get their policies from the Catholic Church. You should be doing better for the amount of money you charge people to move their legs in circles at slightly varying speeds.
Okay.
This was the first draft or the final draft?
Okay, but are you that offended? Like, or
Yes,
you're just
I am.
Okay.
I am offended because I think that this is such a strange world. We've taken the idea of making people feel comfortable to decide now everyone else has to cover up. Now people are showing their belly buttons. People are showing their shoulders. What's to stop to say no more of that, no more of this? Let everyone have their nipples out for all I fucking care. But if you think that this kind of like mentality of a nipple isn't also tied to the way that we treat sex in society, which also relates to the way we talk about drag queens and the way we talk about all sorts of expression tied to can the gay pride parade have BDSM? It's all tied to this idea that in order to make people feel more comfortable, we're going to go back. We're going to go backwards in terms of people being allowed to like bare their bodies, and it's antithetical to the whole body positivity movement.
yeah.
Alingon.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with the teacher.
Why?
Because you broke the norm. The norm is.
But why is there no sign? Here, but let me add on to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if that is the norm.
Yeah.
That's a different discussion
Yeah.
where I could say philosophically I disagree.
All the academic stuff you said about how this relates to like body positivity and all that, I think that's more window dressing. Like, had she just said it nicely, would you have felt as
Of
worked
course, I
up
would have
about
felt very differently about it.
I think that's more like her way of doing it was wrong.
Sure.
I think her doing it was not wrong.
Sure, I don't think it's wrong, but I also think that you should, if you're going to have a rule inside of a studio that's different from the rules of the outside world, a sign is nice, especially given we're not
Do you
talking.
have to-
I didn't take my shirt off in the middle of a restaurant, a spin class where the goal is primarily to sweat.
I guess I when I walk into when I imagine a spin class, I'm not picturing a guy with his shirt off.
And you know why? Because but here's these cycling classes also there's not a lot of guys in them, and I'm just to me, you just have to make it clear because it's very confusing as someone who bounces around from all these different places. Some places it's fine.
Well, I was surprised that the other places it was like a common thing where guys were just working out with their shirts off.
Yeah,
sure.
So
I think I agree with you. I think you're reacting most strongly because it was done poorly.
Yeah.
Because I think I can see a world where they're like, just like because. If you're without a shirt, it's easier for your sweat to go flying all over everyone. So they're like just being like,
sure, to a degree, but also these women with their hair, they're flinging it. Like if we're talking about sweat exposure, we've already lost.
Yeah. No, I think it was done poorly, and I think I agree with all the philosophical thing that you just did.
And you disagree? You disagree with my philosophy?
I think the philosophical stuff was more because you feel outraged at being humiliated in public.
Oh, sure, but
and also you're speaking on other things.
What do you think about nipples?
This body shaming thing.
Do nipples shake the foundation of society?
I don't think that's what they were doing here. I think there were just norms here that you crossed.
Sure, but what about the fact I think there's an argument where men tend to sweat more. Our bodies sweat more, so that's one of the reasons why a lot of like these more man leaning gyms like a CrossFit that you do take off your shirts, and part of it's because men sweat, and that's naturally eventually go. You know what? Just take off the fucking shirt. We're all sweating.
So I don't know if the science behind it is that true. Is that true?
Men sweat more than women. Yeah.
I don't know that.
I'm gonna look it up. It's okay.
That may be true. That may not be true. But I don't think that's like a separate argument than the nipples shaking the foundation of society.
No, but the argument is that it's going like, well, sorry, you sweat more. You're gonna have to be uncomfortable.
All
right. Let's. You went to Harvard and you don't know.
You should organize. You should get.
You could, if you do that, you could go pretty far. That's the thing, right? Like society
slippery slope doesn't. Sure.
Society has drawn this line,
but why this line?
That's just the line that has been drawn. Now you're saying, well, we could push against that. True, but when you're doing that, you can't do that without first clearing it.
Sure, but I think again. There's of course two separate issues here.
Yeah.
But I think a sign is useful if that's the policy, and especially if you go like, well, in class it's going to be tough amidst the music to get off the bike for 2 seconds.
One thing?
Wait, can I just confirm? Men produce more sweat per gland than women do.
Okay, great.
Do men have more glands?
While women have just as many active sweat glands, men produce more sweat per gland than women do.
Okay, I will say in reference to the sign. There's a possibility that you are the first person to ever take off your shirt, and they never even thought that they need to put a sign.
If I will give my life savings if this has never happened before.
Okay.
In the sweat room.
Well, how often do you think it's happening? Like enough, you think, where guys need to be told through sign, right?
Yeah, they say they have a no nipples policy, so clearly this is. They had a meeting about this, and they decided to call it this.
That's the official policy?
When they wrote me back, they said that we have a no nipples policy. Let me.
Well, you didn't read the.
So they don't sue me. Because their response was it says. Nipples. Where does it say nipples? Maybe was I. We're sorry to hear about this experience. While we do have a no nipple policy in the studio. So, we never want this to be communicated in a way that feels shaming or like you're being put on the spot. Didn't offer a free class. So,
would that have done it?
No.
Society has been reconstructed once the
No, but it would have at least been a gesture. It would have at least been a gesture. Big sign. I hope when I show up next time that above the door there's two like a painting of two nipples and it says no.
I guess there's not that many rules for if you're riding on a bike. Then you could put no swearing, no.
But they do swear.
Yeah.
And can I just say the extra hypocrisy where I mentioned in my long run on sentence, you may have missed it. When they told me to put that shirt back on, Harry Styles was playing. Now Harry Styles, if we all recall, was recently at the fucking Grammy Awards where everyone's wearing a suit, wearing a corset thing, with his fucking nipples out. So we live in a world
but they're
where,
not.
God forbid, we have the nipples out in the class where everyone's sweating and practically naked to begin with. But we're listening to an artist who we all love and people praise because he goes to the place where you're supposed to wear suits and have no nipple. And let me add this: I want to get Chris Evans. I want to get Harry Styles. I want to get him to the Soul Cycle class, and I want to see if he takes off his shirt.
I'm coming around to you because it's not framed in a way where it's practical about sweat. Like, because I was like, it could just be you need to keep your shirt on so you're not like But if it is a no nipple policy, then it feels like it's about offending someone or like being naked. You
And
know
that's
what I mean?
what it feels like.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think, but you think that in itself is wrong?
Yeah. I think it's just strange. It doesn't feel like, I don't know. We're in New York City. Like, even if I went to a workout class and a woman took off her top, I'd be like, well, this is New York. You know, this happens. Like, I wouldn't be
You're like,
offended.
I just saw a guy shit himself on the street. I can deal with this.
Yeah. Like, so we're not in like a small town where it's like, I don't know. It just feels conservative to not be able to.
I do think it is conservative.
Yeah.
But I still understand it. Like, especially from I don't know, like, I feel like when women are working out, they're always just like kind of worried about like pervy guys.
Yeah.
And the act of taking off a shirt, even though you are not this type of guy, is something that I could see like a pervy guy doing. So they're like, all right, this is why we don't have that.
Sure, but Phil, I think that my issue is like, well, the solution is not to just restrict, because what's stopping from there? Then the slippery slope the other way.
Well, you're
then
allowed
cover
to wear
up the shoulders,
well,
cover
you're
up the
allowed
belly
to,
button.
exactly. You're allowed to wear shorts. You're allowed to wear like a shirt, but you're not allowed to go shirtless.
Sure, right? I just think like the idea of like what a nipple is. Sometimes, especially as you get older, you go, what are we doing here? It's nothing. A nipple is nothing.
Well, you could deconstruct everything. That's the point. If you go that like once,
I think dick and pussy is a little more than a nipple.
Why?
Why? Because it's smaller. It's less gonna like, you know, you're riding pussy out on those
You
things.
haven't seen
The
some
chair's
nipples.
disappearing.
My point is like society has imbued this thing with some sort of meaning, and that's why we keep it. But if you wanna, you could say, yeah, there's nothing there. You could say there's nothing to like kissing also, right? But we're like, well, actually, we as a society say this thing is something, so we do that.
Well, so okay, then we could murder. We could murder in the Soul Cycle class. Why not? Okay, well, I feel like we're on my side at the end of the day. So, Alingon,
Yes.
I'm very happy to have you here.
Yeah. Likewise.
I feel like we're very much playing a lot of the same clubs right now.
Oh, yeah.
I just see your face, like at all the clubs.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild to go to a club and all the new upcoming people are like, I know fucking all
Yeah.
of them.
Kind of like working the same circuits a little bit. Yeah.
So you grew up in Boston.
I did. Yes.
Near Worcester?
Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester.
Yes.
And there must be some downsides to growing up in Boston.
Downsides to growing up in Boston. So you don't realize how much diversity is lacking until you leave. Like, until I came to New York City, I didn't realize how like white my like areas were.
What did you think when you were a kid? Was there like an age where you're like, you felt it at all? Or was it not until you went to New York and you're like, wow?
It was more when I came to New York. Yeah. That's when I was like, oh, there's a lot more people of color around in a way that I just wasn't like seeing in Boston. Yeah.
Was there any, because you started stand-up in Boston. Was there any like a chunk of your life that you couldn't talk about or joke about because it wasn't relatable to the general audience?
No. I think so. It was almost the opposite. Where my earlier stuff, if it got laughs, I was like, "Oh, this is working. This is good." And then when I came to New York, it wouldn't get laughs, and I realized one of the common threads was like, "Oh, this is like maybe borderline racist." And in Boston, there was just a comfortability with some stuff that could go either way. Whereas in New York, I think people were like, I don't know about that one. Yeah.
And it was racist about?
Oh, anything. Just like Indian people, black people, white people, Asian people, anything that I said that was like touching on race that could potentially like kind of, be, and again, I was like a younger guy, so maybe I just didn't have like the knowledge at that point to be able to thread the needle as well.
You should see Russell's early Facebook post. I mean, we all went through these phases.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I just think it's, I was just in Bristol, Tennessee, and it was like, I felt the conservativeness of that area and a real lack of Jewish knowledge. I made some joke. There were some real rough hecklers, and somehow foreskins came up in some bit. And
Wait, from them or you?
I have a joke that involves like if Jews don't recruit like Christians do, we don't go up to guys who still have their foreskins. Like, have you heard the bad news? And something where I realized we had a weird crowd work interaction I didn't understand, and then later the bartender
Was this Blue Ridge?
Blue Ridge,
Yeah.
The bartender was like, "Oh, I think those guys, they are circumcised, and they thought to be Jewish you have to be uncircumcised." And so, like, looking back, I was like, "Oh, that's why our encounter, I was so confused. They truly thought the opposite.
Yeah.
That's how." And I had assumed that's known.
That's just common knowledge.
That's like one of the two things
Yeah.
that people would know about.
I'm curious, are you circumcised?
No.
No. See, I'm so curious. I guess I can look at the numbers one day, because at least when I grew up, it felt like most people were circumcised.
Well, in America, but
in America,
it's different. Other
but I
places.
wonder what the numbers are like now, because it's there's a degree. I feel like everyone in my generation goes like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. You are uncircumcised.
Yeah.
And
I think that was just like family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you saw a circumcised penis? Were you confused?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember recognizing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had a son, circumcised or un?
I wouldn't probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because the history behind it is just like crazy. Have you ever seen that? So I used to write for Adam Ruins Everything. They did a whole.
Oh yeah.
They did a whole thing about how like it's just rooted in like this like crazy Christian guy who like basically spread this around America, and then that's where it was like getting popular in America.
When did he spread it around America?
Man, I'm gonna have to watch this thing again
Because he separated it from the Jewishness of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It really hit off here, and then it does feel like there's a shift. Though.
It feels even more interesting because it's like you're not Jewish, you're circumcised.
Yeah.
Like if you asked your parents like, why did you do this? I wonder if they were just like, everyone was cutting their sons' penises.
Yeah, it seems very like I don't understand why one would.
And definitely, you definitely. I could not imagine anyone coming along now and gaining traction with a movement that was like, here's what we do to the genitals, right out the puss.
So, but these guys, they just didn't know, and what were they yelling to you though?
Oh, they were just they were just bros who were trying to be like too much involved in the show.
Okay,
but it was just
they
like,
weren't mad about it.
No. Everything was fine. But to not know something that fundamental, it made me go like, man, some of these bits I'm gonna have to really handhold, or just understand, just to be prepared. Like now, if that happened again, I'd be like, oh, do you know that circumcised? That's a Jewish thing.
Yeah.
So, were your parents born in Boston as well?
No, they grew up in India.
In India.
Yes, yeah.
And when did they come here?
Dad came, I want to say, like early 1970s. And then mom probably like late 1970s. Early 1980s. Yeah, probably late 1970s.
Only child, or do you have siblings?
Older brother.
Older brother.
Yes.
How much older?
2.5 years.
2.5.
Yeah.
That exact?
No, it's like it's roughly that. Yeah, 2.5 years.
What does he do?
He's an attorney.
Okay.
Mine too.
Oh.
Well, what kind of cases does your brother do?
He does like educational law.
Anything exciting? Like,
I don't know. What's interesting is because he works in the same area as my parents. They used to be in education. He could never like talk about it because it would be involving cases like around them or in their districts. So he doesn't talk about it that much. So, but I don't think so. I think it's a lot of, not interesting, but I think it's a lot of like, I don't know, like this teacher's got caught with drug, like that kind of thing. Like this student got sexually harassed, that kind of thing. Like anytime the law is involved in education.
when he's done with the case, can he talk about it?
I mean, he has
Will?
talked about certain things, but you
Let's
know,
have him on the podcast.
he's so quiet. But yeah, I mean, we can have him on. He's very quiet.
I just want to see what your brother's
He's
like.
quieter than me.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ! What kind of law does your brother do?
He's a corporate attorney who works for the Major League Soccer. Mm-hmm. So
For the
for Major League Soccer
their side.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know
He's
what other
against-
side.
He's
Well, like
against
class action
soccer.
lawsuits.
Oh, I see.
I see all that FIFA stuff, and it's like I don't care about soccer enough to like dive deep, but I'm like, God damn, this
Yeah.
shit is corrupt,
Right.
on an
It's like
international level.
Yeah. I think Major League Soccer is like such not that. Like
Yeah.
FIFA is like global, and there's like so much. There's like Saudi money going into things.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's
I
like
guess I hadn't thought of
that's a
that.
whole different ball game. Major League Soccer is like the NFL.
Okay, well, because how many people died building that World Cup stadium? It was like
Yeah, a couple thousand.
a couple thousand.
Wait, really?
Yeah, building it.
Man, when
And
was
like,
that?
and still everyone goes, yeah, it's a cool game. Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah, it was like the thing was like the games themselves were so good that was like the worst part of it. Where
Yeah.
like the games became so like exciting to watch that people were like, I can't not watch this.
Yeah.
And then they just like trumped all the
How were people
all
dying?
the suffering. So
You know, like falling off beams, I imagine, and I imagine more like dehydration, and it was hot.
yeah, exactly. It was overwhelmingly hot.
When was this?
Just like the years leading
Yeah.
up to the
Like
World
last
Cup.
year.
Oh my god. I had no idea. It's news. Wow.
Yeah, there's death in the world. So you now tell me about.
Easy transition from that to whatever comedy thing you're gonna ask.
Well, you went to Harvard, which you know all the connotations that you're very smart. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself as a smart person?
I don't think so. I feel like I don't know. I feel like most people when they're interacting with me aren't like, oh, this guy knows a lot.
But what kind of student were you? Were you? I mean, when you were a kid, were you like?
I was like hardworking. There's like was studying quite a lot. I was just like very diligent. I mean, I was also kind of chaotic in terms of how I approached it, but I would do a lot of work.
When you applied and got into Harvard, was that a very exciting thing, or were you like, "There's no way I'll get in," or
Or were you like, duh?
yeah, like what was that feeling of like getting in? I feel like it's a big thing.
Yeah, no, it was big for like my grandmother. She's like illiterate. Didn't have a chance to go to school. My grandfather, this is on my mom's side, was like the first person in his group to like get an education, and he loved like literature and like reading and like loved all this stuff. But he at that time in India, you couldn't really like do much with it, so he literally was like a manager at a shoe store.
Wow.
So he came and visited my family when I was little, and he just wanted to go and like look at the campus at Harvard because he had heard so much about it. So for him, it was like this like temple,
Yeah,
right?
wow.
And then he had passed away, but then I got in after. And it was like a very especially for my mom, it was very like a moving thing for that to happen.
Yeah.
But I think I had a pretty good chance of getting in, but it was still exciting because you could never know for sure.
Yeah.
Your grandma is she still around?
She passed away recently.
She was illiterate to the very end.
Yeah. I mean, I think she knew how to like sign her name, but in terms of like being able to read, I don't think she was able to read. Yeah.
That's wild.
I mean, not uncommon for people of that age group in India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was she living in India? Did she stay in India?
Mm-hmm.
And when was the first time you like visited India that you remember?
They all kind of blur together. We used to go once every couple of years when we were little. I think I was, as best as I can remember, like I was very clean and neat freak type, and so
OCD level or
no, not like OCD, but just like I didn't like bugs.
You would not have helped the man on the street pooping his pants.
Poop is a
He
hard
wasn't
one.
actively pooping. He had probably
Sure.
done it in the last few hours. You know?
Yeah, poop is a hard one for me to.
Barf's really hard for me.
Okay.
Like Yeah.
Yeah, both are difficult for me.
Yeah.
Blood, I still freak blood.
See,
I'm more okay with blood. Actually,
more okay. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Not that I'm around.
I feel
Blood,
like
I always
open wounds often.
I always forget about if I have a cut and they have a cut. Is that bad?
I think that's
Yeah,
bad.
that's not great. I mean, how
For
often
many levels,
How
that's
often,
I'm saying, I always
how
have,
often
like,
are you in a situation where you both have open wounds? You're with.
Well, I imagine I'm saying like I could have little paper cuts or little.
No.
It's got to be a real.
I think it's got to be bleeding, actively bleeding.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not. So you're concerned of like, oh, you're going to transmit something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not.
okay.
That's
poop,
not a
poop
fear
and
of mine.
vomit. I just will breathe through my mouth. I'll get through it.
Oof.
Oh.
I'd rather have. Fuck. I'd rather have poop than vomit. You'd rather have vomit than poop?
I think so. That's my final answer.
No, actually, because I really just did it in my head, and it is I'd rather have poop. Because
rather have poop.
and when I visualize vomit, like
If someone just does like.
These are the types of things that they ask you when you're trying to get into Harvard. By the way.
And there's a right answer. So you went to India. You were kind of clean. You were clean.
Oh yeah, it was very clean. Like as a kid, I was just like, I was very kind of like finicky in that way, and so going to India at that time was very difficult for me. I think because you just had dealing with like it's at that time it was more third worldy. So you'd have just like bugs and animals in the rooms and things like that, and just like more like you didn't have like a toilet, things like that.
And this was you visiting. You visited both your parents.
No, my dad's parents had passed away before I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
Quite young then.
Yeah, my dad's mom died when he was like 3.
Jesus.
Yeah.
From
so
what?
I think she had meningitis, and so like his dad raised him basically.
Financially, did the money they make here? Did they like send money back? Like did they help your mom's parents like live a better life?
Yeah. I mean, we weren't growing up. We weren't like. I think we were like bordering middle class a little, and then like as things picked up, we moved up. But when I was little, it was like just kind of making ends meet, and then my dad started a business. But we would definitely, I think, be like transferring money.
I just wonder what the burden is of leaving a place to live a more prosperous life. What kind of what do you owe to this thing and navigating that?
Yeah. I think definitely they would do what they could.
Did your mom's parents just not want to come to America? It would be too much of a.
Yeah, I think
you just make it sound like life here. At least life here was better than where they were there.
Okay, I mean at that time, if you were here, you had like certain amenities that weren't available there.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
So
if
it's
that
more
necessarily
shocking
means
going over there
exactly.
from being
it's
here.
like if you're used to having like running electricity 24 hours, right?
Sure.
There, when we would go, there would be times where you would just have they would call it like load shedding, which like they would basically shut down the electric grid because it would get overwhelmed, and so there would be like periods of time where you just didn't have electricity.
Would there be any kind of warning, like a super leaving a note?
No. I think it was like kind of understood that around like the hours when people most use electricity, that's when it goes down. But it wasn't like known it was going to be from this hour to this hour. And then or like running water, there would be like a time in which the water would come in, and so it would basically fill up this tank, right? And the water would keep running for this period of time until the tank is full. So you would try to like shower during that time, so you're using the water so that as the water is still running at that time, it would get full again, so that you'd have that amount for the whole day.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is, I didn't grow up with having concerns about that. But all of that being said, India now is so drastically different. And I still remember like the first time I visited the home that my grandmother was living in, and they had Wi-Fi, and I could send like a iMessage from that place, which used to not have like running water 24 hours.
Yeah.
to America in an instant, and I was just like, well, this is
Oh wow.
yeah. So
What was the big change in India? What changed?
I think they changed the way they were open to the opening investment. So before, I think they were a little bit more like, we're gonna keep things closed off, and then I think they opened up the economy a lot more.
Interesting.
I think, and then also because there was so much English speaking in India, outsourcing started happening, which meant funds would start going to India, and then you could just develop very quickly.
I've always wanted to tour India. And I told an agent once, a touring agent, like, people keep writing me from India. They're like, come to India. I think I have a fan base there. And he was like, as if he'd heard this 20 times before from comics, just like, trust me.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to financially recoup the money. The tickets would cost so little. Your deal would be so bad. It bummed me out because I was like, I thought it'd be so cool.
Right.
I had this like fantasy of like, what if I was like big in India and I just went to India 1 month a year, made my money.
Yeah. You wouldn't make the money, but you might be big in India. Because you're like, YouTube there is such a popular way of consuming.
Yeah.
I think it would be so cool to like go there and like sell out like a decent sized theater and be like, cool.
Oh yeah,
this is very fun to do.
Totally, yeah. I mean, my guess is you probably could. They're right that there wouldn't be any money in it because the ticket sales wouldn't be worth much. But like, I've talked to Indian comedians from India, and the way they generally make money isn't by doing their own shows. It's more by doing corporate gigs and college gigs and things like that. But they do have these huge followings and can like pack out places, so they get kind of both in that way.
Did you feel like, because you did a tour there, right?
Sort of. Me, Akash Singh, Tushar Singh, and Kunal Arora, we all went and did shows out there together. Yeah.
Do you feel like there was, whenever I go to a new place, and especially India where I've never been, I would start doubting like so many of my jokes. I would just go through that thing where I'm like, will this reference make sense? Will they know this? Will they know this? Did it feel like...
Yeah. I mean, I was doing these jokes, and they didn't know like Jews were circumcised. I was like, this is
no
basic.
Different than America then, I guess.
It's basically Bristol, Tennessee.
Like, I'd love to, it'd be great to like take our sketch team, Uncle Function, to India.
Yeah.
We couldn't get a show anywhere but LA and Toronto. And
LA, Toronto, then India.
Mumbai. I did like look at the act a little bit, and I was like, is this going to work? The good thing is, when we were going there, we were branding it as a American-born Desi, meaning Indian, basically American-born Desi comics. So people coming out knew what they were coming out for.
Yeah.
So it made it a little bit easier in that way. It wasn't just like we were going up at clubs and just like the random audience that's at a club and seeing whether this material hits.
Like, there's the joke you have right now. What's one where you say, do you say I am a pedophile in the joke?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a joke about your past.
Yes.
And
it's my time in the law system.
But like, that's a perfect example where like that joke is about how in America you have to sometimes tell a community that you're a registered sex offender.
Right.
And I'm like that's an example of a joke where I'd be like, would any other country understand that? What's the rules for this? And that's when I just go like, I start being very anxious before.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know.
And then you're on stage just saying I'm a pedophile.
And then you're just saying it,
and there's no punchline that works.
Or that, and then the punchline is that the police require you to say it, and when you say it and they don't know the reference, then it just sounds like the police actually require you to say it.
Yeah.
I think this might be weird, but like in a place like India, they still have access to a lot of Western media, so they would have some sense of it. And even if they didn't, there is still, I think, something to, this person's coming from the West, and so whatever they're saying carries a weight. Like, they still admire Western things in a way that they're not going to, maybe they won't laugh, but they're not gonna be they'll give you the benefit of the doubt there.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, they still are like, this guy's coming from America, and they still like elevate America in some respects, in the way that might not be the healthiest, but yeah.
Do you speak any of the languages?
Yeah. So growing up, my parents. So
I have to apologize. Once on this podcast, I think I asked Sarna. I said, "Do you speak Indian?" And that's stupid.
It's really dumb.
Name one of the languages.
Stop.
Name one of the languages.
I wanted to hear from him.
Bengali. Boom.
Oh, you nailed it. That's actually what I speak. I don't think it's. I feel like Indian people, for whatever, it's sort of like similar to like. Were you offended that they didn't know about the circumcision?
I couldn't care less.
I feel similar, where I'm like, it's kind of presumptuous of me to think people who didn't have experience or exposure to Indian culture would know so much about Indian culture. You know, it would be one thing if I was like, oh, actually, there's no language called Indian, and you were like, I think I know that there is. You know? Then I'd be like, all right, what are we doing? But in this case, it's like, all right, you didn't grow up.
It does feel like a trick. In China, you speak Chinese. In Italy,
American,
you speak Italian.
You speak American.
It's like a moose meat. True.
Yeah.
Very true.
But yeah, stuff like that. I feel like I'm much more like willing to accept that the person's coming from a place like a good faith. So growing up, we'd speak Bengali in the home. Did you learn English side by side, or did you have to take classes? No. My parents, I think, were speaking to me in Bengali, and so when I was a kid, I was speaking primarily in Bengali. But my brother also, I think, was speaking to me in Bengali and English. So probably there was like that seeping in, and then just exposure. Like I didn't have to it was never an issue.
Can you do your full act in?
No. My Bengali is pretty bad now, and not pretty bad, but like it's conversational, but it's not funny. Yeah, and that too. There's a lot of English in it. Yeah.
If you did master it, could you open up a lot of income?
No, that's what I'm saying. Bengali Indian comedy doesn't have an income in it unless you're playing to corporations and colleges. Maybe 5-10 years from now there will be, because economies are kind of switching around. But I would still like to. I think it'd be cool to. I don't speak Hindi, which is technically like the language that like a lot of Bollywood movies are in.
Do they have any, like the same way Italian and French are of the same family? Like, are they're close?
Yeah. So Bengali, Hindi, they have very like similar wording. They're kind of the same roots. You have like North Indian languages, which are often very similar, and then you've got South Indian languages, which are very different from the North Indian languages. So you've got like two kind of families of languages there. Yeah,
fascinating. Yeah, I'm gonna test you after this next week.
Okay.
So you do well enough in school. Mm-hmm. You're working real hard. Mm-hmm. You go to Harvard. Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do in Harvard? Or like, what was your original plan? Like, what did you want to be?
Going into it, I think I wanted to be a lawyer or a judge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
A judge?
Yeah, maybe.
How far into that did you like get?
So after I graduated, I did. Have you guys ever heard of AmeriCorps? Mm-hmm. There's a
no.
Okay, so it's like a.
Is that another language in?
It's another Indian language. Yeah. No, it's a Peace Corps, except domestic. So basically, you're kind of like basically volunteering. You're paid like a living wage in some sort of nonprofit within America. In my case, I was placed in a legal aid organization. It's for a year, and I was basically like interning at this legal aid organization in Boston. So they would be in the Boston Medical Center, and patients would come in with like health issues. But these health issues are things something that a lawyer could assist with sometimes. For example, somebody comes in with like coughing, right? And the reason they're coughing is because there's mold in their apartment. Uh-huh. The doctor can give you a prescription, but the doctor can't get the mold away. So they could write a reference to this legal aid organization that was in the Boston Medical Center, and then the Boston Medical Center could help, or that legal aid organization could help the patient get that mold taken care of.
So you would need a referral from a doctor.
Yeah, so the doctor would refer you to a lawyer. Yeah.
And then you'd go to the landlord and say, legally, you can't have mold here.
Yeah, exactly. Then the legal process would take.
Was that like a common one? Just mold?
They did a couple things. Like housing often was something that people needed assistance with, just getting like their forms in for whatever, assistance in getting into the lottery for affordable housing or something like that. They would oftentimes just like not be aware of it, so something like that we could assist with. There was like housing. I think there was education was something else where you'd have like students come in who needed I'm blanking on the word, but like it's not a tutor, but if they have like some sort of like mental issues and things like that, they need like another person there with them, right?
Yeah.
And the school wouldn't give that, but
Unless you had like,
but an educational lawyer could come in and be like, well, these are the reasons why, and then the doctor could give like the formal explanations why, and then you have to submit that to this public
It
school
feels
system.
like when you did that work, were you like, fuck, I'm one of the good guys?
So this was the problem. I didn't have the same heart for it that I needed to.
Yeah.
You know, while I was doing it, I was thinking about jokes.
Yeah.
And I also, I feel like I might have told this story before, but basically there was like this time where, so the legal aid, it was me and a couple other people were in this program together. And mainly it was like 98% women. It was me and like two other guys in this program. But so it was like a soul cycle class. Right? So I go in and then they do this kind of like conference thing where they're talking about like, okay, how do you deal with the emotional weight of the day-to-day of dealing with patients or clients that are dealing with this heavy stuff, right? And there's on the panel, there's three people. There's two women and one of the other guys that was in the program with me, right? First woman goes and she says, I always have two things in my drawer. One is chocolate, the other is a box of tissues. And she's like, those are the two things that help me. The other woman goes and she says, I always have my running shoes with me. So if there's ever like stuff that's very stressful, I'll run, and that helps me cope with it. And then they asked the guy, how do you cope with it? And he said, I just forget about it. And just that, I feel like was what I was doing too, where it was just like, I just didn't have the same like emotional connection that I felt like was kind of necessary for that work.
You're like when they come in, I think of what the setup would be, and then what's the twist?
Yeah.
I feel like I went to school to be a teacher.
Okay.
And when I was student teaching, I was like, I hate this. I like when people talk about what they got out of teaching and having this experience of breaking through. I'd be like, I like that I'm standing up in front of everyone.
Yeah.
I don't like that I don't care what they like. I just didn't feel connected, but I was sensitive in the way that like sometimes a horrible thing would happen to a student where I'd be sad. Like I'd be like, oh, this kid's dealing with this awful family, like that kind of thing. I'm like, that just bums me out. It doesn't make me like, I just was like, I don't get anything out of the teaching part of it. Yeah. And I just get bummed out by children going through stress and so I was like, I hate this. I just didn't feel so similar. I didn't feel connected to it, and I was want to make fun of it too, and the kids.
I mean, I felt like it was fulfilling. It's just like if it's to be your life's work, I felt like you needed something more.
Were people crying in front of you there? Like, was it like a?
I didn't see. Like the people that would come in.
The people that would come in. Yeah,
there were definitely some very like heavy stories because I would assist with basically when the patient comes in, you're doing like an intake interview to see like what sort of things are there that our legal aid organization provides that we could potentially help with. So it's a pretty thorough interview that you're doing, and you're dealing with like sexual abuse survivors and things like that, and that's pretty heavy stuff. But again, like maybe it was,
and you'd be like, okay, what do you think of this one right here?
Yeah.
So my uncle,
I give her the light. But it was just like, I think maybe I was okay in retrospect, but at the time I didn't think I was committed enough, because I think there were people who were like committed, but then you burn out if you get too emotionally connected with that stuff. So maybe I was okay with it, but I just didn't think of it. I was at the time.
Yeah.
And you're doing, were you like, I'm a comedian at this point? When did you start
doing
that?
the stand up? I had started stand up a little earlier. In between, so my first job out of college was straight up. It was just like a consulting job, and I like quit that in like 2 months, just because I was like, this can't be the life. I was like, I'm in my 20s. This is the prime of my life, is where my head was at, and I was like, I can't be spending it looking at spreadsheets. So I quit, and my dad and my mom had started a tax consulting business. So I was like, maybe I can work here and it'll at least be something that I have some control over, and that'll feel good. So I was doing that a little bit, and that's when I started doing stand up a little bit. But then I was like, maybe I'll go to law school. So I applied to this program and was doing this like legal aid.
And that was while you were at Harvard?
No. This was after.
After.
Yeah.
Was it hard at all? Was leaving that program when you were said, I'm going to go full-time stand-up? Like, what was that? Because for me, going to stand-up, first my parents were just like, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it was me going into stand-up wasn't like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Because
you had already been
I was
doing
currently
theater
doing
and-
theater.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was like,
It's like, okay,
Yeah, you
well,
like
okay,
stepped
good
up,
luck with
actually.
that other one.
all right, I guess plan C might come
Anything's
through.
better.
Yeah.
How it's going with that one.
Okay. What was it hard? I mean, your older brother, like, was your family like, cool?
Yeah. So the thing. So what happened was I worked with my family. I did this legal aid thing. I realized like I shouldn't go into law because I would have done public interest law if I had done it, and I just didn't have like the capacity for it. So then I went back to working with my family, which was a tax consulting practice. And
Did you like working with your family?
the aspects of it were good. Like I liked the independence of it because it's a small business, so I could basically like get the work done. I could kind of come and go as long as I got the work done. It wasn't like, oh, you got to be here from this time to this time,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, you got to kind of like I got to like my dad had built this thing up, but there were things that I was like, oh, this can be more efficient. So how about we try this? Because he's not like technologically that savvy, but he like knows the business, right? So stuff like that I could help with, and that was like kind of cool to help with. But in terms of like the day-to-day work of it, which is like tax consulting, that wasn't something that was as fulfilling to me, right?
Yeah.
So
Now, when you were at Harvard, did you work on the Lampoon?
I did, yeah.
You did?
So okay,
Oh, okay.
I technically was on staff. You have to submit a couple of packets basically, and then go through a couple rounds, and then they like each semester they take like a handful of people.
What is it exactly? Is this a weekly thing?
The magazine?
Yeah, it's a magazine. The
It's
Lampoon.
it's a publication. I don't know if it's it's definitely not weekly. It's
Monthly.
monthly, if that. Yeah, I think it comes out maybe like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a semester or something like that.
But you got onto it. That's impressive.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It has a very specific comedic voice, which at the time kind of mirrored maybe something like New Yorker cartoons. You know.
Did it have any kind of teeth to it, or was it like family friendly? New Yorker cartoons are pretty safe.
Oh, so there would be 2 things that they would do. One was the publication itself, and that generally wasn't like satirical, or that was more just kind of like almost like zany. But they would kind of be like kind of sketches, or just it was kind of like off the wall comedy stuff. But then they would also do these parodies. So when I was there was like a National Geographic parody. And it was literally like partnered with National Geographic, and then you create like a parody of the National Geographic.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that sort of stuff was where like the satire and the bite would come. Yeah. And there would be like the Crimson was like the name of the paper, so they would like release like a fake version of that.
Yeah. Any big comedians that were on staff when you were there? Was this Colin Jost's era?
Colin had graduated already. So in terms of stand-ups,
Yeah, or just comedy people. I just think it's so cool. I mean, the Lampoon just seems to be a place that a lot of people have gone through.
Yeah. So my roommate, Hayes Davenport, wrote for Family Guy, wrote for just like a ton of HBO shows, and then Robert Padnick wrote for The Office. Chris Schleicher wrote for a ton of like Mindy's projects. Justin Hurwitz was he won like an Academy Award for what's that? La La Land.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So like people came out of there that were definitely and continue to be like very qualified.
I always wonder if I would have been able to get on it. I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't have. I couldn't even get into Harvard, let alone get on the fucking Lampoon.
I don't know, man. The other thing is like you're a college kid. So there's that element of like you don't even know anything.
Yeah.
So that's I think like the overlying thing that like you know I don't even know what this like I didn't grow up like my roommate Hayes his folks like his dad had gone to Harvard and he knew very well what like the history of the Lampoon was and like he used to watch like Mr. Show. He was the guy who like introduced me to like comedy in that way.
Yeah.
I had very little insight into any of that. So when
what led you to even apply? Like,
well, he was going, and he was like, "Oh, this is like the humor magazine," and this I think it was kind of like understood, like, "Oh, this is where like the funniest people are." So I was like, "All right, I like comedy.
Yeah,
I loved stand up always." So I was like, "All right," but yeah, Harrison Greenbaum was my year. He started the stand up club, but I didn't do that. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get Harrison on the podcast, but he's in Vegas now.
Oh,
Doing a Cirque du Soleil thing called the Big Apple.
Okay.
And he's like the host of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's so okay. So then you're working at your family's company. What's the big leaving of that full on stand up? Was it winning the Boston Comedy Festival?
Yeah, so that was again. If these things happen, one of the nice things was it was a transition. It wasn't going from full time working here to full time doing stand up. It was like, okay, I'm working at the company, and then as stand up was picking up, it was kind of like gradually moving out of there and doing stand up more and more. It was I had a conversation with my dad about it, and my dad, had wanted I think me to be pursuing the family business because he was like, oh, this is perfect. Now I can kind of, this thing that I built can be passed down and, can continue in that way. But he was also like, man, the reason I came to this country is so that you could pursue things that weren't available in India.
Yeah.
Pursuing art. He's very, he loves like poetry and literature and drama and that sort of thing. If he could, he's like, if he could have been like an actor, but that opportunity just didn't exist for him.
You think so? An actor? You think like that specifically?
I mean, yeah, he's very like even within our community, the Bengali community, we always have like these annual. There's a festival called the Durga Puja, which is like our big annual festival. It's like a Hindu festival, but during that time, there's all kinds of like celebrations, and always there's like plays. That's a big part of like Bengali culture. And even in Worcester, they would do these plays. Even in Boston, they would do these plays, and my dad would be a part of it. You'd just like nail it always.
Wow.
Yeah, he's very capable.
It's like with Jewish kids, you do Passover and there's like the reading of the story, and like it very clearly gets to the theater kids and they go, and then Moses waved his staff.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
How intense do these plays? I mean, is it just like a reading, or like there are scenes and they memorize and they put on costumes?
Yeah, no, it's a play.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah, they have a stage and they do the play, and it's a full on play. Yeah, people
like
memorize. I mean, there's varying. It's sort of there's like this community theater element to it where there's varying levels of talent and varying levels of buying into how much you're gonna like memorize the lines.
Yeah.
All of that. It's still small town theater in some respects, but the people who do it well do it well.
Yeah.
He should become an actor now.
So he wouldn't act, I don't think, but he's the thing that he's very good at is public speaking. Like very good at public speaking. And so because of his upbringing, which is like basically when his dad was the one raising him, they were basically homeless, and then because of that, he was able he had to basically kind of learn a lot, and then through a series of things that led him to come to the country, and then he was able to start the business. His life story is very interesting.
Yeah.
And he can tell it in a very compelling way. So he does public speaking. If he could do that, which
Just like he goes around just to inspire people, what is
sort
he?
of, yeah. There's the entrepreneurial aspect of it, so he could do that for businesses. But he's spoken around the world at different Rotary clubs and things like that, because he's just a very inspirational figure in that way. Yeah,
That's a similar field to what you're doing.
yeah. It's a little frustrating because he's funny. But
Does he do it? I'm a pedophile joke at his inspirational?
Yeah. Always. That's how I knew I could do it in India. I was like, as long as Dad's doing it. No, he's funny, and I used to say and now I can't say it, but I'll still say it. But he's funny in a Bill Cosby way, which is an avuncular comedian.
Man, when I was little, Bill Cosby was so funny.
Really?
Oh yeah. I remember watching one of his early specials with my grandparents. When it was that was one of my introductions to stand up was watching.
Do you remember the jokes too?
I don't remember. I mean, I think I've said this before on this podcast. I don't remember a specific stand-up bit, but I remember one of my earliest memories of laughing at a sitcom was the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
At a part where
it was the one about that special liquid that makes women fall.
No, it was no, it's this bit where I don't think there's any talking in it, but he was always sneaking food. Cliff. And he was always sneaking food, always getting caught.
Big hoagies.
And she was always trying, to catch him not to eat. So I related to it, the content. And so she had made a cake, and she was like, "Don't eat that cake." And then she leaves the room, of course. And he goes and he's doing funny Cosby faces, and he cuts a hole in the middle of the cake.
Yeah.
And I always think about this.
Yeah.
He cuts a hole in the middle of the cake, pulls out a piece, eats it. Puts paper towel in the thing, and then frosts
Covers
over
it
the
with
top,
frosting.
so it won't. And I just thought that was so fucking funny, and also a good idea.
So funny.
Anyways,
I think the clip for this should be favorite Bill Cosby moments. No, I just love.
So,
I watched the other day Comedian, that documentary.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's such a good documentary, but the climax of it is, as much as a documentary has a climax, it's just Jerry, after working to get back and feel like a comic again, he visits Bill Cosby performing in New Jersey on a 5 p.m. show. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of a riff of just look at this God, look at this older guy. And it's surreal to watch it now. Mm-hmm. It's just surreal.
Yeah.
And I always think that they got Netflix. I'm so curious if it was deleted for real. That he filmed his last special.
Man, I would love to see that special.
Who wouldn't love to see that?
He was rising again as a stand-up at the time.
There's a clip from January of the year it all happened. Him at the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and he comes out and the band's going crazy, and he's doing the Kiss Cosby faces, and everyone's going nuts.
Yeah.
They're going nuts.
Yeah, man. He was. He had a Comedy Central whole hour the year before. His stand-up was becoming. Yeah.
Well, he's going on tour.
Yeah.
I'm so
Would you
curious.
open for him?
No. That's a firm one.
Yeah.
That's a firm one.
Yeah. No.
Would you?
No.
Can you imagine if it was someone it was an open micer in the scene who was just this is a great opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna have openers.
The question is, will any of the clubs? No, I actually don't think he does. I think at least in the Seinfeld thing.
I think historically he just walks out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now he's blind as fuck.
Is he?
Oh, he's blind as fuck.
Oh.
All right, let's.
Okay, we'll get off Cosby.
Now, I think the biggest difference is between us, Alingon, other than shirts on and shirts off, is when you won the Boston Comedy Festival. Mm-hmm. What did you do with the money?
So I thought the way the festival works is you submit to get in, right? And you have to pay a submission fee.
Yeah.
And then when you perform, you do a quarterfinal, semifinal, final, and then a winner. The winner gets $10,000. Everybody else gets nothing, which I was like, this as a system seems flawed. I would much rather the performers get paid for their performances. And so what I did was, I took half the money. So even before the final winner was announced, I think it was like, in the finals, it was like me, Mark Normand, Langston Kerman, Ray Harrington, Matt D, Sean Bedgood. I want to say there was a couple other people, but it was like 10 people. We all discussed it amongst ourselves, and we're like, all right, second place should get a couple $100, and third place should get a couple $100.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, but when I won, I was like, I paid out the second place, but we had just determined before. I paid out the third place, but we had determined before. But the rest of it, I was like, everybody basically gets spot pay. So every performer got $25 per performance.
Okay.
And so that left me with like $5,000. And then that $5,000 I donated to I think it was called the One Fund, because I think Boston had the marathon bombing at that time. So half the money I gave to the other comedians as spot pay, and then half the money I donated to the
What would you
Boston.
do if you won a competition?
I like this plan that you guys came across.
I like the first half of the plan. I'm on board.
First
with.
half of the plan. I'm
the
like
person getting second and the person getting third.
Yeah, love all that, and I like the spot pay thing is a very nice. It is hard for me in my life right now to imagine donating the rest to a charity. To be full disclosure,
Sure.
I'd like to imagine that at some point in my life, feeling that way.
Personally, if I'm speaking honestly, I would give more than I won to a charity. I would double it,
Oh,
even
good.
if it was
Okay.
at a great
I'm glad you're
sacrifice
being
to
honest.
myself.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're both being honest.
If you had
That's
won,
amazing. That's
if you
amazing.
had won last
Well,
comic,
here's the thing. If you hadn't won, you wouldn't have had that money.
Totally.
You know? So there's that element of it, and you wouldn't have been like, I am down this much money. It's only when you get the money that you're like, oh, now I have this money.
Yeah.
yeah, but then you have the money.
Then you have the money. The other thing was, I felt like the reason I had become the comedian I had become was because the city had supported me.
Sure.
And
that's the
city-
difference.
I thought you were gonna
became
say
a
'cause of-
comedian
'cause
that
of
I am
runners.
of my own volition, with no
sheer
assistance from
dint
anyone.
of personality.
Yeah.
Just sheer force of will.
Yeah.
If you had won Last Comic Standing, how much money was that? $1 million?
I don't think so. I think it was $250,000.
Would you have given like every comedian their SAG day rate leading up to that?
So the comedians get paid anyway.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you're getting your.
How far into that did you get?
It was a little convoluted. Basically,
We've had someone else on here before, and they talked about how weird it is.
Did we have someone from Last Comic Standing?
Oh, so sorry. No, I'm thinking of another.
RuPaul's Drag Race?
America's Got
No,
Talent.
America's Got Talent.
America's
Sorry.
Got Talent.
Thinking of different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all sounds.
It's all very similar.
Yeah.
And just
Basic,
speaking of Dat, I realized I posted the other day. This is how Dat Fan, who won the first
Oh, yeah.
season,
Yeah.
he does these Zoom open mics
Yeah.
that are kind of like bringers.
Yeah.
And he posts these flyers where it was like him and like, I'm serious, 20 other comedians on
Right.
this flyer
Right.
in a way that was just like, this feels like hell. This feels like it's just like, when you see a flyer where something about it, smells of these people are being exploited. Like a bringer, like
who's
it's
getting
like,
exploited?
I think the comics on that thing. There's something about they either have to stay and watch the whole mic,
Okay.
or they all have to bring someone. It's just like it's like one of those flyers. It's like I shouldn't say the club, but there's some flyers where you go like, something smells fishy here.
Okay.
Are you friends with that fan?
No, I'm not friends with that fan. He's creating this?
He was
thing?
the
He
host.
runs this like weekly Zoom
Oh, he
open
runs the
mic
Zoom. Okay,
with
okay.
like a kind of flyer that makes you go, "Oof, you won this thing."
Yeah.
The rumor at the time was that he went on tour and he didn't have an hour, and comics were resentful because he was like a newbie comic.
Okay.
I don't know what actually.
Yeah, I mean those early seasons of Last Comic Standing, there was a lot of fishiness because I think the person who created it was Barry Katz, and he also managed the comedians who were on the show. So there's a lot of like fishiness around who's actually moving forward and winning these things. Is there voting? Is
Yeah.
the judges actually counting? And all
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Who were the judges when you were there?
Russell Peters.
Uh huh.
Roseanne. and Damon Wayans.
Okay, wow.
Did Roseanne give any good advice? Did you see her recent set
I didn't see her recent
on
stuff.
Twitter? It's pretty rough.
Caleb Heron had a really funny or a really insightful tweet I liked about Roseanne.
Just about how brilliant Roseanne as a show was. And
Yeah,
it's
and
just
then
like
how much
now
of a
she's
bummer.
she's like, my pronouns are kiss my ass.
Yeah.
Which Ted Cruz also did at CPAC. So she stole it as well. It was just one of those where it was all, even for conservative, it felt like you're a little late to this one.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a little late to the kiss my ass pronouns
Yeah.
joke.
Have you watched any of her early stuff?
I've seen like the Carsons. New, fresh, great. This stank
didn't
of
feel that.
nothing even from herself or her being or anything of interest. Just the worst kind of schlock.
Yeah, there
you
was
could
that.
imagine.
The thing about Roseanne was there was always an anger there that was really originally really interesting and coming from a place where you're like, whoa, that's a voice that we're not hearing, and then now it feels so bitter and angry and like
Just cash grabby.
I always wonder about I question whether it's a cash grab. I wonder whether it is age. The fact that what she was saying then aligned with the popular trends at that time, and now it doesn't align with what's popular. Yeah. And if you listen to older people and they're watching her, it resonates with how they're thinking. Yeah. Like, would they be like, finally, somebody is saying the stuff that we're thinking in a funny way?
But the topics feel supercharged by media input in a way that feels different from her earlier stuff. Felt like it was coming from her life.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you've heard the 100th conservative make the same joke about pronouns, there's part of you who are like, how many people on your way to the Fox News studio did you run into that insisted you use their pronouns? Because I don't think anyone's mentioned their pronouns to me in a month.
Yeah.
Or like they act as if like they did.
Yeah.
They act as if they've been. Well, I've been performing a lot in the South, to be
Fresno,
fair.
yeah.
But it's you feel. I'm not saying that listen. There are people in the audience applauding and cheering and whatnot, but it feels like supercharged with this obsession about a particular topic that I'm like, I just don't believe that you're dealing with this as frequently as your whole set was this.
Oh, okay. Well, I got to look at her history because she's.
We're having her on tomorrow. I mean, I'd have her on.
it would stress me out.
Would you have Cosby?
No.
Oh, you wouldn't have even been on the pod. Interesting.
No.
You seriously think that? You think I could have Cosby on this
No,
and
I
not
was
be
joking.
fucking okay? Good. You're like, oh, you fucking hack, sell out. You won't even have Cosby.
Roseanne, I gotta watch what her special is, and then also what happened
I
to
don't
her.
know
I'm
if-
not so sure because she said some stuff on
She
Twitter.
said a racist thing, and
it was straight up racist.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But the thing is, and she's now wildly conservative. Very. But it's not different conservative. It's not like whoa, she has a take we haven't heard. It's like
Norm Macdonald had plenty of views that I found
Yeah.
rather deplorable, and he was hilarious. I'm not so blind that I can't go like, oh, that's funny. I'm not of that ilk where I'm like,
Like you
no
just
way.
felt like the jokes were because
Elena, there's
it's
no
not
question
it's not
here.
a special.
Like the
you're
ones-
talking
Sure.
You're talking a 2-minute clip that you saw.
Yeah.
That
it was
got
not a full
circulated.
special. But I promise, based on this special, I promise from the bottom of my soul, we're not talking about a great comic
It would be
anymore.
really funny if there was that 2-minute chunk and then a brilliant comedic special that we're not seeing.
And that's what they pulled. That was the clip.
And they just pulled that really hacky.
Well, I do think there probably is an element of that, right? Like they're going to get their viewers, and they're
Sure.
going to show the most supercharged things to get those viewers. So it might be very well the case where she might have some nuance in what she's saying that isn't being portrayed in that ad.
Yeah, I really think when you see this clip, all your benefit of the doubt will vanish in 10
Yeah.
seconds.
Okay.
But
It's
yeah.
4:55. Are you okay?
Yeah.
But okay, so you did Last Comic Standing. How's your? I'm curious. I just want to ask, since our lives are very tour heavy right now, has it been with the TikTok, with the social media? Did it change your touring life?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I mean, I was touring more as a kind of like a serviceable comedian who could be on stage, and if people are coming to the show, it's generally like clean. It's generally somewhat of a different voice, and it's generally like hopefully like punchline heavy.
Yes.
So you're gonna get like boxes checked, and so you can put him out. But it's not like I was drawing for a while.
Sure.
Also, I had some credits, so like they could at least be like, well, this person's been on this thing, so they could kind of at least sign off like, well, he's kind of like a rubber stamp of proof of.
Sometimes it feels like credits don't fuck, like in terms of like even now, like the idea that one's been on Comedy Central or one's been on Late Night, I'm like, I don't think that moves a single ticket.
Yeah, I would say pre-pandemic, the clubs were looking at that more as just like a validator.
Yeah.
You know, of just like, oh, this person had gotten on this thing, so we can tell the people coming to the show, oh, this person's been on this thing.
Sure.
Right? I don't think people were like, oh, I've seen this person on 5 minutes of Colbert.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But just to be like, oh, you've seen this person on Colbert.
I just feel like you see every flyer has every late night show on it, no matter what anymore. And at a certain point, everyone becomes numb to, you know, I could put any flyer up and just put Late Night, Comedy Central, and everyone go, oh, cool.
Right. So I think in terms of ticket sales today, you doing a late night spot isn't going to move the needle unless that late night spot goes up on YouTube and does really well on YouTube. Like that is the only way that you're going to get like the movement from it.
Yeah.
Or there's the possibility of like some long-term play of like, hey, some casting person is watching these shows, sees this person, and then is like, let's bring them in for this.
Of course.
And then, you know, somewhere down the line.
How are you feeling? I feel like we put out a lot of stuff and we were touring. And how are you enjoying this phase of your career? I feel there's just exhaustion. There's just sometimes there's a burnout. I feel like I'm a TV network and I'm the sole generator of content. And sometimes it's just tough. It's just tough. It's all so gradual. And I just would like do anything for something that you felt a real ticket sales like super increased. It's just tough. I'm just exhausted. How are you enjoying this part of your life? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel tired? Do you feel like, what's the end goal here? It used to be a special. Now sometimes I'm like, the clips are going to be seen by 1,000 more people. 10, you know.
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious. Like when you're going out, you are seeing people coming out from what you're putting out.
Oh, for sure. It's moving. It's moving. It's all just like it's funny how things like being on Corden. I mean, it's literally as if nothing really changed.
Okay.
It's just all so gradual, and I feel like back in the day, you had more moments of, oh, you did this, cool. Now like things changed. So it's just sometimes I look and I think, oh wow, I went for Bristol.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's sometimes it's a week ahead of that, and they're like, we have 3 tickets sold for Friday.
Okay.
4 for the early show Saturday, 0 for the late show Saturday. I'm like,
well, there are only 7 people in the town,
Christ.
so you got everybody.
Of course.
So I don't. It's hard.
Are you enjoying? I'm saying, are you? How are you feeling?
Right. So it's hard for me to tell whether what's different is our perspectives or what's different is like the numbers, because for me, prior to posting stuff, I would have just whatever the inbuilt audiences of the crowd of the club coming up, right?
Yes.
And then I would perform for whoever was coming out to a comedy show that night. Very rarely are they coming out for Alingon Mitra. Now, it is quite drastically different for me. So that element of, it being gradual, again, I can't tell whether you and I just have different ideas of what gradual is. For me, this has felt very drastic.
Sure.
In terms of like before
I really started headlining, I think when I really headlined post-pandemic, post TikTok. So I don't know if I fully experienced the opposite of. I think you had like a full headlining experience life before I before I did it all.
Yeah.
So maybe I just don't feel it as much.
Yeah, there might be.
But also, it sounds like he's doing better than you.
It does. You got TikTokcomic.com. I can't compete with that at all.
can't do that.
I mean, that's worth at least $1,000. TikTokcomic.com.
Which I'll then donate
What do you
to
think
all
you-
the TikTok comics.
What do you think you could sell that for? TikTokcomic.com.
Not much, honestly. Who's gonna buy it? Present company excluded.
No, because
Who's gonna buy it?
you're still saying that as your like the TikTok comic.
So the reason I got the website was because you can't link into Instagram, right? Like if you
Into
put
TikTok, you mean?
no, not into.
Oh,
TikTok.
yeah.
I
Went
don't
to
really,
TikTok, too.
I don't really use TikTok that much.
Oh, you've moved on.
It's not that I moved on. I guess yeah. I guess maybe there's an element of I moved on. I used it for like 2 months during the pandemic, and then I kind of stopped all social media. And then when I came back, I started posting on Instagram. I just thought TikTok was like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And then when I tried to like reinsert into TikTok, I think like I have to post again very, very, very consistently to get back into the algorithm or whatever it is. And I haven't really done that. I will just put everything out everywhere, but TikTok isn't really the reason. The reason TikTok has worked is because I feel like everybody calls short form content TikToks. So literally there are people who come out and be like, hey, I saw your TikTok on Instagram. You see? And I'm like, okay, they use it like Xerox.
Yeah.
Or Kleenex,
Oh, interesting.
That's very interesting because
yeah.
YouTube is Shorts, Reels is Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no one
Snaps.
calls those things. No normal people call those things those
Yeah.
things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be like TikTok, you're TikTok.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
What if we called our sketch team
TikTok
Function?
TikTok function.
TikTok Function instead of Uncle Function.
TikTokfunction.com.
Yeah.
What if we blew up after that?
TikTok
We were
function.
like, that was it.
Yeah.
That's all art is anymore.
That's all it is, just a little clever branding.
All right, let's go on to our next segment.
This has gotta stop.
This has got to stop. Do you have a This has got to stop for us to ling on something that needs to stop?
Yeah, maybe. So this is old but new in some ways. So the Super Bowl happened. The halftime show, I didn't watch this year. I don't know if I remember last year. The one I remember was J-Lo. Did you guys watch?
I certainly
I've
did. I
seen
don't
it at the
remember.
time. I don't remember it now.
They
But
say it was one of the good ones. I think.
Perhaps. I don't remember whether it's considered one of the good ones or not. What I do remember is I was watching it with a group of people, and they were primarily women, and they could not stop talking about how good J-Lo looks.
Yes, people are obsessed with
And
it. Yeah.
and they were like, and she was 50, I think, when she performed at the Super Bowl. I think.
Yeah, oh, they love talking
Damn,
about
she
that.
still
yeah.
looks really good.
Exactly.
This is exactly what people were saying. She was like, she looks amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe she's 50, right? And I think that should stop because I think it's really insincere when people when she doesn't tell everybody the amount of like surgery and amount of things that she is having done to her to preserve that look.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how this relates to me taking off my shirt in the
Please,
Soul Cycle.
please. This is what we're back about.
But okay, so do you think it's one of those where it'd be like they should go, wow, her doctors did a great job.
I think
No.
no. I go ahead. Sorry.
I think what should happen is people should be like, it is completely unnecessary for somebody to be doing this because it is like a flaw that we require people to age in this way for us to still appreciate them. I think they should be like, hey, if somebody looks 50 and they're acting 50, that's the thing that we should be trying to uplift.
So you would prefer people went, ugh, you see how good J-Lo looks? Disgusting.
I think
Just be your age.
I think not her particularly, but the system they should be questioning and be like,
I think
hey,
they should be like,
why are we pushing? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no. I was gonna say.
But
I was gonna
why?
make a joke.
Because human beings are dumb and they see the sexy and they pay money. I mean, that's why.
But what's going to happen is this: when these women become 50, right? They won't have the access to the money and the surgeries, whatever laser treatments are that J-Lo's having, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to age the way 50-year-olds generally are aging. And they're going to look in the mirror and they're not going to feel as good because they're going to be like, look at me, right? If only I had those Puerto Rican genes of J-Lo, which is what everybody's saying. It's like, oh my God, she must have great genes and she must have like a great exercise routine, which I'm not discounting those things, or I am discounting, but I'm not saying that those things don't exist. I'm saying there's all these other bigger factors that people refuse or don't talk about, which are leading to this thing happening. And if we don't acknowledge that, then we're kind of screwing ourselves, because we're not going to look like her when we're 50. And we also shouldn't be uplifting that as like the model.
See, that's where I'm like, I might agree with you in theory, but I'm like, human nature is human nature. People are going to do this.
My issue with J-Lo is
the music.
I've seen I don't really know her
acting.
music. Yeah, the
really?
acting. I was gonna say the last.
Me, are you talking about my scene partner?
No,
From the movie
But
Hustlers?
listen, it was insane when she did that movie. People were like, she might get an Academy Award. I'm like, an Academy Award for that movie? No offense to Hustlers, but like, there's this weird thing where people, with the looks and even with anything she does, people put her. She's not a likable lead. I watched that movie that she just did on Amazon, and she is so miserable in everything. She's so like,
my God.
like she's so mad about everything. She's not a funny, comedic, likable person. So I'm like, stop putting her in these things and propping her up like she's this great thing. She's beautiful. Yes, she's 50. We can't believe it. Whatever. But like she's not that good, and I'm just sick of it being like, what can't she do? Act in a comedic romantic comedy and make me laugh or like her at all. That's what she can't do. Be a believable romantic lead that I am rooting for, because I don't root for her. I'm like, I don't know. You don't seem like you like the guy that you're with. In every movie, that Marry Me with Owen Wilson, I've seen them all. Nicole watches them, and I watch them too, and she's just not likable.
Made in Manhattan.
I haven't watched that one. But
on TNT a lot.
I feel like she probably was more likable at some point. I don't know. Just now I'm like, I don't. Anytime I watch
Jennifer, if you listen to the pod after we work together in Hustlers,
God, yeah, you're right.
I want you to know I strongly disagree. And if we ever have you on, Douglas Goodhart will be the co-host of that episode because Russell. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Sometimes I see this stuff, I'm like, it's like when Madonna, like, she's recently been the focus because she came on TV and had like just a lot of plastic surgery. Just in a way where you see it and we can say anything we want, but we look at it and we go, wow, that looks different.
Yeah.
And there's a degree of like, don't talk about it. And I'm like, but like, who are we going to pretend that we're not going like, whoa, that's a shape I've never seen before. There's sometimes there's two prongs of the body positivity. One, I'm like, yes, be body positive, and then when I'm like, do you think no one's gonna notice this thing?
What do you think is body positivity?
Well, there's a degree of like, hey, don't talk about her looks, and it's like.
Because I feel
felt like it came out of the screen. Like,
so I'm not sure if plastic surgery is body positivity. I feel like not doing plastic surgery is body positivity.
Sure,
I
but
think
the
body
difference is
positivity would say that.
J-Lo, they're saying probably there's plastic surgery involved, but it must have just been more subtle or better better genes
that's
overall.
The thing, like, that's like thing with like a Paul Rudd or like Jennifer Lopez. You're
people
like,
say Paul Rudd. How does he not get older?
they're
And
not
it's like,
aging.
what do you mean?
They're not
how?
aging.
Yeah.
They're very wealthy people that probably have.
Do you wish celebrities were more honest about like when someone said to Paul like, oh my
But
God,
is
you
it
look like
them
you're
or
20?
is it us that we're talking about it? Do you know what I mean? Is it them? Is
Sure.
it J-Lo and Paul Rudd, or is it that as a society we're
Do you
like?
think we should at least, because if we can't get rid of being complimenting people who still look youthful, should we at least be more honest about procedures?
Totally. Especially in that realm. Like if you're like a regular person and you're exercising or whatever, you're eating healthy and you're like doing the things that everybody can kind of do, that's different. But if you have access to these things and then what you're saying, and then you're going, for example, like a Jennifer Aniston or something, right? Clearly there's work that's done.
Yeah.
But she's also like promoting vitamin water. And people are like, well, if you drink this water, you're going to look this way, right? It's like, no, it's not the water. It's the money that's going into these like micro surgeries that are happening. that I think, especially for like young, especially impressionable women and things like that, is a very negative thing. But it's happening for guys as well with like a Paul Rudd or something like that. We are feeling this like same kind of like desire to, I have to also do this thing.
Do you think you would never get plastic surgery?
No.
Now let me think.
Unless I got burned.
Oh, sure. But I
Yeah.
imagine people say this.
Yeah.
And then one day, let's say you start having a TV career, a movie career,
Yeah.
and things are going well, and then you hit 50, and like suddenly nothing's coming in.
Yeah.
And your agent or manager, someone you're very close with, sits you down and
Yeah.
says, I gotta tell you, like, I think if you could just play in your 30s or 40s, like the TV world would open back up to you.
Right.
There's a guy, it's here and it's here. He just goes like this, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
feel
don't
like
think-
you've had this conversation already based on how specific these
No, because I
sits
also
down,
agree.
he says,
I'm
"Gianmarco
like I don't
Soresi."
want. There's something about me that I'm like something about plastic surgery.
Yeah.
I have an aversion to, but it's also because I think it's because you see the worst examples and you go, don't risk that. Don't risk
Yeah.
looking like a Muppet. But
Yeah.
I also feel like people have said it before.
Yeah.
And then someday you see Amy Poehler and you're like, damn, you look like, something. There's something. And it was done well.
So I think there's two things. One is
You look great, Amy. For your age. I mean, go.
she drinks a lot of water.
a lot of it. Water.
There's two things. One is acting world, theater world has this preoccupation with looks that
People do.
comedy I don't think has as high a preoccupation with. So I am very satisfied with what I'm doing, and I don't think I would ever require that kind of work to have people come out to see me do stand-up.
Can you imagine, though, a bunch
if-
of 20-year-old open micers getting heavy plastic surgery to imitate their comedy idols?
I totally could. I mean, hot comedy is becoming something.
I hate hot
we've
comedy.
talked about hot comedy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hot comedy. But even if it was the case, where they were like, hey, you could be doing theaters and arenas. We just gotta, right? No, because I don't need that. If I can play clubs, I have very low overhead. I'm very content doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then if they're like, oh, you're out of clubs unless you, then I'm like, all right, well, I'll do something else because I would lose too much of me to
Really?
Do you think do you think that's what they said to Dane Cook? You're gonna lose
Man.
this stadium's.
Poor Dane.
Oh man.
What happened with
Oh,
that?
just
he lost
just those
like,
people
lot of-
where like with the plastic surgery,
Lot
it's
of
so
plastic
visible that sometimes I wonder. Like I always wonder. I'm like, was this your fault? Was this? Sometimes I'm like, was this your fault in the sense that you wanted more and more and more, or did you get a bad doctor?
Well,
Yeah,
I think
it's hard to do.
I think it's a combo, and like they can only do so much, and like so like there is a point at which you break.
Yeah.
Like if you look at people, like it's short sighted to get it done because eventually you're going unless technology moves very very rapidly, like you're eventually gonna have to fix what it was that is
Yeah.
happening to your body.
If you went
that's
bald,
what's that's what's interesting about it is that you're right. It's like it works until all of a sudden, because I feel like anytime I'm like, oh, you got plastic surgery, then it didn't work. Because like then I'm like, I'm not thinking of like, look how young they look. I'm thinking of this surgery. So like there is a thing where even when it's working for a certain point, at some point it turns over, and then that's all anyone sees. Really, is like, oh,
if you started balding, you've beautiful long hair. Would you ever? Would you
No.
ever? Never.
No, because then that's what I'm saying. Like that, but that's just it goes back to like the circumcision thing. I'm like, what is the reason for
I
it?
want hair. I want hair. Even for me to run my fingers through
you
it.
can get a wig.
I'm nervous. I got this thing. I know it's coming, and I'm going to Turkey.
You're going to Turkey.
I mean, I'm saying to get the hair transplant surgery. Turkey is the place a lot of people go.
Oh,
because surgery's
I
very
didn't know the
cheap.
reference. I thought you were like, I'm going to Turkey and I don't want to look like this without
I
hair.
know, that's what I thought. I was like,
You know
I was like,
Turkey with a
why?
bald spot. might as
You
well
know how mean
drag
they are
yourself.
in Turkey about bald people.
You know how tall they are over there. They're gonna.
I didn't know that that's where it happens.
Turkey is where like the a lot of people go because the hair surgery is a lot cheaper.
I don't think you should do that. I think if you're gonna
No,
get
it's not like
hair
getting a Brazilian
surgery,
butt lift. It's a regular
Okay,
surgery.
okay. You've done a lot more research than anyone else
But
knows.
like an Andre Agassi was known for his hair.
Yeah.
And it turned out he was like wearing a wig, but like he went bald. The thing I value about him is his tennis abilities. The thing I value about you is your comedy. I don't care about your hair.
Yeah.
You might not, but the majority of my fan base. I have that feeling sometimes. Whenever someone's like, oh, like a compliment about like looks wise, I'm always just like, fuck, you don't like me for the right reason, and these looks are gonna go away.
But that's the point, right? It's like that's why leaning into that stuff is dangerous. It's short-sighted.
Yeah.
If you're fine with aging, then you're never gonna have to confront, oh, people aren't liking me for who I am.
I just think it's gotta be crazy to be a pop star because it's like they value the youth, and it's like it's a different business. I'm sure they can sit down and be like, no plastic surgery. This is where the money's gonna go.
Yeah,
plastic surgery.
But again, I feel short-sighted. Even being a pop star, like there's plenty of examples of people that were like, okay, I can't do this kind of music forever. I have to change the thing and adapt to being.
Sure, that's the thing with Madonna. I think that some people feel where sometimes there's like this really heavy sex stuff,
but also, not even sex. It's like trying to be cool or youthful when you're like just you're.
But I feel that with like Cardi B too. Like sometimes she'll be like, my man and I, we have. I think she said once like we have sex 6 times a day, and I was like, shut the fuck up. That's it's similar where I'm like, you are a workaholic. None of you people at the top of these industries, you're working your ass off 6 times a day. Even if I was going for it, I don't think I could break 4. Maybe 5 if I really if I stayed up the whole night.
Right.
If I took drugs,
hours.
I could do
24
more.
hours.
But I can't even imagine what that for. I think in my prime 3. And that was not sex. That was by myself. Let's go to our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessings. Russell, you got a blessing?
Yeah, I got a new dog. I didn't
What
tell
the
you.
fuck?
Big life
Why
decision.
won't you share your life with me,
Okay,
Russell? You break my heart.
It's kind of no, I haven't told anyone. It's kind of
That's the problem.
It's kind of. It wasn't like that thought out. But we did it. We got a new dog. He's very sweet.
What kind?
He looks a lot like our current other dog, Ziggy. So he's a pit bull. That same kind of coloring.
What sex offender did you name it after?
No. So they all come with
Louis
names.
is his cat.
His name is Daniel. So Daniels. But
the Daniels?
Well, my last name is Daniels.
Oh.
So I was saying his name is Daniel
I was
Daniels.
Like the Daniels directors? Sure.
No, so he very sweet. Taking it slow in terms of it's 2 pit bulls together. But they seem to be getting along on their walks and going well. And he's doing really well. He's a very sweet boy. So
did you train Ziggy?
Yeah, so we're doing the same training.
Great.
So it's a lot of the first 3 or 4 weeks, it's like a lot of he's in the crate, and then we go on 6 short walks a day, and that's when he gets rewarded, and then we do some place time, and so it's a whole thing. But that really worked with Ziggy, so we're doing the same thing with him. But he's going well.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
My blessing, Tova and I, this episode is coming out on fucking February 28th, but we did an early Valentine's Day because I'm doing a gig, and she took me to this place where you do collages.
He's got a prop.
It's like an art place, and it's really for crafts. And so we did the collage, and we were both like, this is what this is how our minds work. And you go to 2 different tables, there's scraps everywhere, magazines, and you just make a collage for 2.5 hours. We were stoned.
It sounds lovely.
And it was really, and I tried to make it on the whole paper. I didn't finish it. But both of ours are really intense. Hers was about femininity. It said femininity. It was about dieting. And mine, I made it a case file. It says broken home. And I had Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, and they're split up. They're both with new sexual figures. And there's their son in the middle, and he's holding on to them, holding hands. And it's really heavy. Really heavy.
I was expecting something very sweet and lighthearted. And
Not at all. And this was very,
it's very
something
much you would do
in
prison.
Yes. And then I found this giraffe. It's
might
like a giraffe
be a suicide
being
note.
pulled in. Yeah, I could write it right in here. And imagine leaving a suicide collage. That honestly makes it more palatable for me.
People would be like the creative.
If not the suicide, this is like when you have a serial killer and they go into his room.
This is
what you would
is
find.
someone as who's are you totally ready?
That's that Australian actor who got
As
Me Too.
Einstein.
As Einstein.
And it says, "Are you totally ready?"
Yeah. Are you totally ready? This says on your side internment.
This Gianmarco, this is
The Alone.
very upsetting.
And then
collage.
look, so this
Was
is
there somebody like kind of walking around while you guys were doing the collages, and then they were like looking at very happy ones, and then they were coming to you and being like, "Oh,
they were pretty hands off because I
Okay.
think if they came over to me and be like, let me explain this to you.
Right.
What's cool about collage is a lot of random like coincidences happen,
Mm.
and it feels in the moment like this is brilliant.
Okay.
So at least in this one, so this is a dead fish, and I cut out the eye, and the eye is now focused on this man's cock.
Oh,
and this
okay.
is like the ex-wife with the new. This is my mom, and the fish, the dead fish carcass is tied to this forest on fire. It's a family on fire, and you know what? It's just another case of a broken home. So great. It's called.
This segment is called Blessings.
Yeah, just something you're thankful for, or if you have a collage. So this place is called. Let me say the name because I want to go back here. It's called Happy Medium. Very cool. It was very immediately. There was a thing I had to fight in me where I'm like, I need to make it perfect. I need to get it done in time.
See,
I need it to be. But it was good because I felt something I haven't felt in a very long time, which is like making art for the sake
yeah.
of being artistic.
Do you? Okay, I have a question.
Would you ever do this with me?
Yeah, I would. I have a question about your process,
Please.
real quick. Did you have this story laid out while you were putting this together, or did it come together when you were like?
Thank you for asking me. The thing that I think most deeply was when I saw Bill and Melinda Gates. That's when I
So then you crafted the story around them.
it was them
and you mapped
together,
it
like back
onto
when they
your
were
parents.
married, and I was like, let me play with that.
Okay, I got it.
And yeah, so
I would do that with you. I would be really into it.
Are you going to
actually.
frame it?
I don't know if Tova's into mine, but I'm going to ask her to.
It's upsetting to look at, maybe.
But here's like-
I don't think you should throw it away. I like it.
Here's how
I don't,
much-
Well, you know how you need like something on a frame, and then you put like the actual thing over it.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be like the thing that goes
Oh
behind.
yeah.
you
I
know?
like that. But I think what's so smart about Tova, so they give you this big brown piece of paper, and I'm like, fuck, that's a big collage.
I gotta use it
Tova
all.
just
Oh, she made a
Tova made a
smaller one.
smaller one, and it's like that's the ways. I feel like when you looking at the way she made a collage, I made a collage, that like a psychologist could not only tell emotionally based on what we did, but also just like my shortcomings, particularly my
I
brain.
do like some psychologists being like, "Oh, so do you come from a broken home?"
Brilliant psychologist.
But like the fact that Tova like saw the paper and was like, "Oh,
Right.
I'll make a smaller
Also,
one," and my brain,
not
I was
horizontally.
like, "I have
You-
to fill the whole paper."
If you were gonna do that one, you should have done it this way because it's upsetting. You know.
Okay, so what's your blessing?
I like leggings. So in the wintertime, I wear a layer of leggings and then I put the jeans on.
Really?
And it is for somebody who grew up in Massachusetts who didn't know how to dress himself in the cold. This has been a more recent thing where I've learned how to dress in the cold. Game changing. I feel like a god when I walk out and it's cold outside and I have leggings on top of the jeans and I'm warm. Everybody else is cold.
Wait, on top or under?
Oh, you're right. So the jeans go on top.
The jeans go on top.
That would be crazy if he was like really proud
I'm
of.
I'm getting close to the guy you're gonna
You
have
feel
to
like a
help
god,
out.
and everyone's like, "What is it?"
A true psycho.
I figured something out that no one else has.
I will say that's you make me want to try it. I
I've heard
always
people
thought-
say that before.
I always
they
thought
call
like,
it, they call it like whatever. What are they? They don't like long underwear. or
Long
something.
johns. Long johns.
I feel like it's more feminine to say leggings, but that's what they are.
is it like boxer like material or like underwear like material, or is it
No,
thin?
it's so like Uniqlo makes these like it's almost like yoga pants.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
And
will
then-
give that a try next winter.
Yeah, I think you'd be up your alley.
What's not a
You just
not
seem like
your
a
style.
cold person. Like it
But
seems
my
like
legs are hairy, and sometimes I used to wear tights for like ballet and musical
yeah,
theater.
they're like tights.
Yeah, but sometimes tights make my legs itch like
Okay.
crazy. But I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Plus, you sweat a lot.
I
Being
sweat
a
a
man.
lot. And Frank,
he's
if
a
I'm being honest,
man.
I'd rather wear no pants
Yeah.
in public.
Yeah.
But we haven't won that battle yet. So this episode is coming out February 28th. Is there anything you would like to plug?
Yeah, sure. If you go to my website, TikTokcomic.com. It's actually alingonmitra.com, but it directs there. TikTokcomic.com. You'll get my email list. That's how I let people know about my shows. So if you sign up for that, next time I'm in your town, you'll get an email. And then all my my show schedules are there. But I think in March I'll be in Texas, and then after that I'll be in North Carolina, and after that I'll be in Europe. So you can check all that out.
Really, where are you going in Europe?
I'm gonna be. So TBD on the actual locations. London is already on the calendar. I'll probably do Manchester, Amsterdam, and maybe one other place.
Good for you. I'm trying to figure out a kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it is.
That's exciting. Russell, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, come see Titanic the musical at the Daryl Roth Theater.
Great. If you're a fan of the show, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. By now we will have released our live episode with Aaliyah Janine about working in the adult entertainment industry. You get a lot of bonus content. If you ever see me at a headlining show and you say you're a Patreon member, I will give you our new Downside sticker. And we just recorded a live episode yesterday.
Yes.
I don't know what the guest was yet, but let's hope it was someone good. So patreon.com/downside. Even if you don't want the bonus shit, it's a good way to support the show and help us to keep growing. For me, you can find all my dates, tiktokcomic.com, but with 2 I's in the tick. And I will be headlining in San Diego this Thursday through Saturday. I think it's 5 shows. It's a nice little room, so let's sell it out. Then I will be in Aruba, and then Hartford, Connecticut, March 11th for 2 shows at City Steam. But find it all online at Gianmarco Soresi. And let's see. I got to figure out a new way to end these shows. Sometimes I like to have a little twist. I like to gather everything we did. But with Ismail, we cut something out of the episode, and I ended the tag with a reference to a part that we cut. And so it made no sense. I said, just do it in the butt, everybody. This is the downside.
If you could not mention anything about the circumcision or the stuff where I mentioned my dad,
or Harvard,
or anything about Harvard,
or Roseanne Barr, or
this is the Downside
Cosby
Comedy Festival.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.